There's a moment in every person's journey when everything you thought you understood about life suddenly falls apart. Nothing clicks anymore. The plans that once felt solid dissolve. The people you counted on fade. What you were pushing so hard to manifest doesn't arrive. And you're left standing in the middle of your life, staring at the wreckage, asking the one question that echoes louder than any other: why now? Or worse, why not now? It's in this space, this haunting, hollow space between what you wanted and what is, that the universe whispers the most difficult spiritual truth you'll ever face: wait. But how do you trust divine timing when nothing makes sense? When the money's not coming, when the relationship didn't work, when your health is struggling, when your prayers feel like echoes in a void? How do you trust a force that seems invisible, unprovable, and in your darkest moments, completely indifferent to your pain? The answer doesn't come in logic. It comes in surrender. And that surrender doesn't mean giving up. It means giving into a deeper intelligence that sees what you can't, that knows what you don't. That's preparing you for something your mind would ruin if it arrived too soon. You see, divine timing isn't just about delay. It's about design. There are things your soul came here to learn, and those things can't be rushed. Just like a seed can't bloom in winter, your destiny can't unfold before its season. And here's the hardest part. Sometimes, the waiting is the initiation. It's not a pause in your growth, it is the growth. Because in the silence, in the stillness, in the ache of not knowing, you're being taught the one lesson that will carry you through every chapter of your life: trust.
Click subscribe to this channel to get more profound insights.
The journey to trust begins with letting go of the illusion of control. Let's be honest, most of us don't want clarity. We want certainty. We want guarantees. We want to know exactly when the thing will arrive, how it will look, and how to avoid more pain. But the soul doesn't grow through certainty. It grows through surrender, and surrender isn't passive. It's the most courageous thing you'll ever do. It's saying, even though I don't understand, I believe there's a reason. Even though I can't see the path, I trust the one who laid it. The first step toward trusting divine timing is seeing the delay as protection, not punishment. You may think you're ready. You may feel ready. But readiness isn't about desire, it's about alignment. And the universe will always hold back what you want until you become the version of yourself who can hold it without losing yourself. That relationship didn't fall apart because you're unlovable. It fell apart because your soul knew you were still building the capacity to love yourself first. That job didn't reject you because you're not enough. It rejected you because there's another door that your ego is too scared to knock on. Divine timing is divine filtering. It removes what's not aligned so you don't settle for less than what your soul came here to experience. But what about when the silence is deafening? When it's not just days or weeks, but years of waiting? This is where the deeper initiation begins. Because waiting isn't just about time, it's about identity death. It's about stripping away the parts of you that were built on control, on performance, on needing to predict every moment. In the waiting, you become who you really are. Not the version of you addicted to certainty, but the version of you who can hold the unknown and still breathe, still trust, still love. Let me ask you something that only your soul can answer. What if the delay you're experiencing isn't holding you back? but holding you together? What if the very thing you're begging for would actually break you if it arrived now? Could you trust the delay then? Could you see the divine not as a force outside of you, but as the intelligence within you that knows exactly what you need and when? This is where the real transformation happens. You begin to shift from frustration to faith. Not blind faith, but embodied trust. You stop begging for signs and start becoming the sign. You stop chasing answers and start becoming the space where truth can land. You stop demanding to know why and start resting in the knowing that what's mine will not miss me. That's not delusion. That's devotion. That's the soul finally remembering its rhythm. And as you begin to trust divine timing, something unexpected happens. You soften. You slow down. You begin to live differently. Not because the outer world magically transforms overnight, but because you do. You realize that peace isn't found in getting what you want. It's found in knowing that even when you don't, you are still guided, still held, still enough. And from that place, you begin to create, not from lack, but from alignment. This is the paradox of divine timing. The more you trust it, the less you need to rush it. The more you trust it, the more you see how everything is connected. The missed call led to the conversation that changed your life. The layoff led to the breakthrough. The heartbreak led to the healing. The silence led to the song. It's never random. It's always precise, but you can't see that precision in the middle. You see it in reflection. That's why trust is the bridge between confusion and clarity. But let's go deeper. Trusting divine timing also means grieving what didn't happen. It means letting go of the fantasy timeline you created in your mind. The age you thought you'd be married, the job you thought you'd have by now, the version of life you were supposed to be living. That grief is real, and spiritual maturity doesn't mean bypassing it. It means honoring it. It means saying, yes, I'm disappointed. Yes, I'm tired, and still I trust. Can you hold both? Can you hold the ache and the alignment at the same time? This is the space where real magic is born. Not the kind you force, but the kind that finds you. The kind that arrives when you've stopped performing. When you've stopped forcing. When you've let go of the ego's timeline and surrendered to the soul's timeline. That's when the door opens. Not because you begged, but because you became. The version of you who no longer chases miracles but is one. So how do you live when nothing makes sense? You breathe, you ground, you return to the now. Because divine timing doesn't live in the future. It lives in your presence. It speaks in whispers, not deadlines. It moves in seasons, not seconds. And the more you anchor into this moment, the more aligned your next moment becomes. You begin to realize that the waiting isn't wasted, that the detour isn't a mistake, that the silence isn't absence, it's preparation. You start to see the synchronicities again. You feel the nudges. You follow the subtle yeses. And you trust that, even if things don't move fast, they're moving deep. That even if it looks like nothing is happening, everything is shifting beneath the surface. Let me ask you another question, one that may change how you see your entire life. Are you willing to be delayed, if it means being delivered into something sacred? Are you willing to be misunderstood, if it means being aligned? Are you willing to let go of what you think should happen in order to receive what's truly meant for you? Because the truth is, divine timing isn't just about patience. It's about preparation. It's about becoming the version of you who is ready, not just ready to receive, but ready to receive without losing themselves, ready to hold the blessing without dropping their truth, ready to say yes without abandoning their boundaries. That's what the waiting is doing. That's what the silence is sculpting. That's what the confusion is clearing space for. There is something quietly miraculous that happens when you stop chasing life and start aligning with it. When you no longer demand answers, but instead embody the question. When you stop pulling on the future and begin listening to the present. This is where divine timing becomes alive inside you, not as an abstract idea, but as a living rhythm. And the more you begin to align with that rhythm, the less urgency you feel to force your path. Because deep down, you start to sense that your life is not off track. It's just unfolding in a way that your ego didn't plan, but your soul always knew. We've been conditioned to believe that success must look a certain way, arrive at a certain time, and follow a certain formula. But what if all of that conditioning is the very thing blocking you from the life that's truly yours? What if the timeline you're grieving was never real to begin with? What if the pressure you feel to be there by now is actually a collective illusion, a sickness of the modern world that equates speed with value and productivity with worth? And what if the universe is slowing you down on purpose, not to punish you, but to protect you from building a life that has nothing to do with your essence? This is the spiritual detox that happens in the waiting. The parts of you that were chasing love for validation begin to dissolve. The parts that were addicted to achievement begin to soften. The masks you wore to be accepted begin to fall away. And what's left is something raw, something real, something worthy that doesn't need to be proven. Divine timing doesn't just bring you what you want. It brings you back to who you are so that when the thing does arrive, it finds you whole. But let's not pretend this is easy. The ego hates not knowing. It hates waiting. It thrives on control, on making things happen, on pushing. So when life doesn't obey your timeline, the ego panics. It spirals into scarcity. It tells you stories of failure, of being forgotten, of being left behind. It compares you to everyone else. It screams, look how far ahead they are. And unless you're deeply rooted in trust, you'll believe it. You'll start running again, chasing again, abandoning yourself again. This is why trusting divine timing isn't just about patience, it's about choosing a different narrative. It's about rewriting the story you tell yourself in the delay. Instead of "I'm behind," you say, "I'm being prepared." Instead of "nothing's working," you say, "something is being rearranged." Instead of "I'm failing," you say, "I'm being refined." The words you speak to yourself in the waiting shape your vibration. And your vibration is what aligns you with your next chapter, not your effort, not your hustle, not your panic. So how do we stay grounded when everything feels like it's falling apart? We return to the truth of the moment. We breathe. We feel the ground beneath our feet. We ask, what is here for me right now? Not what might happen tomorrow, not what should have happened last year, but what is here now? Because the present moment is the only place divine timing can speak to you. It doesn't communicate in ultimatums. It communicates in whispers, in nudges, in subtle shifts of energy. And the more present you are, the more clearly you hear them. There is a sacred intelligence to the things that don't work out. Every door that closes is not a punishment, it's a redirection. Every unanswered prayer is not a rejection, it's a course correction. But the mind can't always see this in real time. It takes hindsight. It takes maturity. It takes inner stillness. And that's why the universe often won't explain itself to you in the moment. Not because it's cruel, but because explanation keeps you in your head. Trust brings you into your heart. And sometimes the gift of divine timing is not what you receive, but what you are spared from. The person you thought was the one who didn't stay. The job you didn't get. The opportunity that fell through. At the time, it felt like heartbreak. But now, looking back, you realize it would have cost you too much. Your peace, your self-respect, your authenticity. And that's when you understand the universe wasn't silent. It was protecting you in ways you didn't even know you needed. Let me ask you something that may shift everything for you. What if you stopped trying to make your life make sense and instead started making space for what's meant to be? What if you stopped obsessing over timelines and started honoring the timing that's unfolding through your intuition, your healing, your evolution? What if the reason nothing is happening yet is because something inside you is still being shaped, still being softened, still being strengthened? This is the inner alchemy of divine timing. It doesn't just manage events, it transforms you. It turns impatience into presence. It turns fear into faith. It turns confusion into clarity, not through explanation, but through embodiment. And once you begin living from that place, your energy changes. You stop leaking urgency. You stop vibrating desperation. You begin to walk with a quiet confidence, a knowing, a calm that says, I don't need to rush. What's mine is already finding me. And yes, there will still be days when none of this feels true. There will be days when you question everything, when the silence feels cruel, when the waiting feels endless. But even in those moments, you can choose to stay open. You can choose to breathe. You can choose to say, I don't know how this ends, but I trust that it's working for my highest good. That's not weakness. That's mastery. That's what it means to surrender without giving up. Because divine timing is not a belief you hold when everything is going well. It's a devotion you choose when everything is falling apart. It's the decision to trust the mystery even when you're in the middle of the mess. It's the willingness to believe that just because you can't see the whole picture doesn't mean the masterpiece isn't coming together. You are not being punished. You are being positioned. And the outcome is already written. It's just not revealed yet. So how do we live in this space? We create meaning. We show up with presence. We serve where we are. We love what's in front of us. We keep our vibration clean. We do the inner work. We stay open to being surprised. And we anchor into this truth. Just because something hasn't happened yet doesn't mean it's not happening. The universe doesn't operate on your clock. It operates on your consciousness. And when your consciousness is aligned with your soul, time bends. This is where the miracles begin. Not when you push, but when you allow. Not when you chase, but when you align. Not when you beg, but when you believe. And when the thing finally does arrive, you'll understand why it took what it did. You'll see how every delay, every detour, every no was actually a divine yes. Not just to the outcome, but to the version of you who could truly receive it. There is a strange peace that rises when you truly begin to understand divine timing not as a cosmic delay, but as a sacred design. A lot of people think that trusting divine timing means waiting passively and hoping things will magically fall into place. But that's not what trust actually looks like. Trust is active. Trust is intentional. Trust is a way of living that refuses to let fear dictate the pace of your life. And when nothing makes sense, that's when trust becomes your most powerful spiritual tool, not because it removes the uncertainty, but because it gives you the strength to walk through it with grace. You start to realize that time itself isn't your enemy. The delay isn't your punishment. The silence isn't your abandonment. It's all part of a deeper unfolding, one that's not happening to you but through you. And the more you soften into that truth, the more you begin to feel the sacred intelligence behind every so-called setback. That heartbreak wasn't just an ending, it was a redirection. That closed door wasn't rejection, it was recalibration. That season of emptiness wasn't a failure, it was a foundation, being rebuilt brick by invisible brick. One of the most humbling lessons divine timing teaches us is that life doesn't owe us an explanation. We don't always get to know why something took so long, or why something didn't work out, or why we had to lose someone we loved to find ourselves again. But we do get to choose what we make of it. We do get to decide whether we let the unknown close our hearts or open them, whether we shrink in confusion or expand in curiosity, whether we resist life's rhythm or learn to dance with it. And the more you live in that awareness, the more you begin to trust your own unfolding. You stop measuring your worth by your productivity. You stop comparing your path to others. You stop trying to rush your healing, rush your growth, rush your blessings. You start asking better questions, more soulful questions. What is this moment here to teach me? Am I in alignment with my truth? What can I surrender that I'm still clinging to out of fear? Because sometimes the only thing blocking divine timing is our own resistance. Let me ask you something that most people never slow down long enough to ask themselves. Are you willing to be patient with your own becoming? Are you willing to honor the seasons of stillness just as much as the seasons of acceleration? Because the truth is, the greatest breakthroughs often come after the greatest waiting. But only if you don't give up. Only if you don't close down. Only if you keep your heart open, even when your mind is screaming for certainty. You start to realize that divine timing isn't about things happening later. It's about things happening right. Everything that's meant for you is already aligned with the version of you you're becoming. And sometimes the delay is simply because that version of you hasn't landed yet. So the universe waits. Gracefully, lovingly, unapologetically. It waits for you to rise into your own readiness. It waits for you to let go of who you're not, so you can finally receive what's meant for who you truly are. There's something sacred about not knowing. We spend so much of our lives trying to find answers, trying to force clarity. But what if the not knowing is the portal to the real transformation? What if the pause is where the magic brews quietly, far from the spotlight? What if the waiting is where your soul gets organized for the life it's about to claim? Divine timing doesn't play by human rules. It plays by soul logic. And soul logic says you don't need to understand everything to walk in faith. Faith isn't pretending things are fine. Faith is staying open even when they're not. Faith is saying, I don't know how this works out, but I believe something bigger than me is guiding this process. Faith is trusting that your intuition is not lying to you. Even if your circumstances haven't caught up to your spirit yet. And it's in that space between belief and manifestation that your energy becomes magnetic. Because now you're not just hoping, you're embodying. You're living as if it's already done. And that energy is what calls the future into form. You'll begin to notice that the more you trust, the less you force. The less you force, the more peace you feel. The more peace you feel, the more clearly you hear the next step. And that's how divine timing actually works. It doesn't give you the whole staircase. It gives you the next step. And when you take it not from desperation, but from alignment, you unlock the next one. Not because you're hustling the universe, but because you're finally moving at the speed of soul. Let's bring this to the real world. What does it look like to live in harmony with divine timing when your bank account is low, your dreams feel distant, and your heart feels broken? It looks like grounding yourself every morning, even if you're anxious. It looks like showing up for your creativity, even when you feel uninspired. It looks like making space for joy, even when nothing is certain. It looks like holding space for your grief without letting it harden you. It looks like choosing trust not because it's easy, but because it's the only thing that sets you free. And yes, you're allowed to cry. You're allowed to question. You're allowed to feel frustrated. But don't let your temporary feelings make permanent decisions. Don't let your fear of being forgotten cause you to abandon yourself. Don't let the noise of the world drown out the quiet truth of your intuition. Divine timing always honors the soul that listens. Not with instant results, but with lasting fulfillment. Not with fast answers, but with deep peace. The most powerful spiritual warriors are not the ones who move the fastest. They're the ones who can sit in the mystery and still choose love. The ones who can walk through uncertainty and still serve. The ones who can feel doubt and still hold space for miracles. This is your training. This is your preparation. This is the part of the story that doesn't make sense until it does. And when it does, you'll look back and realize, I wasn't stuck. I was being shaped. So now, the invitation is simple but radical: trust. Trust the pauses. Trust the detours. Trust the heartbreaks. Trust the silence. Not as setbacks, but as sacred setups. Not as delays, but as divine choreography. Life is not late. Spirit is not slow. You are not behind. You are right on time because your soul doesn't move in minutes. It moves in miracles. And one day, not far from now, something will click. The person will appear. The opportunity will align. The dream will materialize, and it will feel effortless. Synchronicities will flood in. Doors will swing open. Peace will wash over you. And in that moment, you'll remember this one: the moment you almost gave up. The moment you questioned it all. And you'll smile, because you'll realize that was the moment you were closest to the breakthrough. So don't rush, don't force, don't chase. Stay rooted, stay open, stay present. And whatever you do, don't stop believing in what you can't yet see. Because the unseen is not empty, it's divine. It's preparing you. It's protecting you. And it's about to surprise you in ways you've never imagined.